A chart shows you shape. A pivot table shows you totals, grouped exactly the way you want, without writing a single SUMIF or COUNTA formula by hand. Let's take our product, revenue, and status table and turn it into a real summary, total revenue and product count, broken down by status, in just a few clicks. If you've ever built that kind of summary with a stack of SUMIF and COUNTA formulas, one per category, a pivot table replaces the whole stack with a handful of drop-down selections. Select A1 through C7, the whole table with headers. Open Insert, then click Pivot Table. In the dialog, leave New Sheet selected as the destination, and click Create. Sheets jumps to a brand new tab with a mostly empty grid on the left and a pivot table editor panel on the right, with rows, columns, values, and filter sections, each ready for us to add fields. Nothing here touches the original table. A pivot table always reads from the source range live, without duplicating or locking the data. In the Rows section, click Add, and choose Status from the list of columns. The pivot table immediately fills in with 3 rows, At Risk, Great, and OK, one for each distinct value in that column, already grouped and sorted alphabetically, with no formula written at all. If a status changes in one of the source cells, the pivot table refreshes its groups from that source range. In the Values section, click Add, and choose Revenue. By default, Sheet summarizes it with SUM, which is exactly what we want here, though a drop-down right next to it lets you switch to Average, Count, Max, MIN, or several other summaries anytime you need a different view of the same numbers. Now each status row shows its total revenue. At Risk totals 13,000, Great totals 72,000, and OK totals 44,000, calculated automatically from Charlie and Echo, Bravo and Foxtrot, and Alpha and Delta. That's the entire table's revenue, regrouped and re-added, in the time it took to click 2 drop-downs. Click Add in the Values section again, and this time choose Product. Sheet summarizes text fields with COUNTA by default, since summing text doesn't make sense, so this adds a second column showing how many products fall into each status, 2 for At Risk, 2 for Great, and 2 for OK. Now the pivot table answers 2 questions at once, total revenue and product count, broken down the same way, side by side. You can keep stacking values fields like this well beyond 2, and each one gets its own column automatically. One more quick adjustment. In the status card under Rows, open the Sort by drop-down and choose Sum of Revenue. Then open Order and choose Descending. The 3 status groups reorder themselves, Great at the top with 72,000, then OK, then At Risk at the bottom. The pivot table now reads highest revenue first without reordering the original table, and it will recalculate that order when values in the source range change. Let's recap. Insert, then Pivot Table, builds a fresh summary worksheet from the range you select. Rows groups your data by a field, like status. Values summarizes another field per group, some for numbers and COUNTA for text by default, and you can add more than one. Sorting a rows field by one of those summarized values reorders the whole summary instantly. That's the core of pivot tables, and it took far fewer steps than maintaining separate SUMIF and COUNTA formulas for every category. The pivot refreshes when cells in its source range change, while the source table itself stays untouched. In the next lesson, we'll combine everything so far into a real interactive dashboard.